Listeners of the Randomness of Nothing podcast, as always, we get entrepreneurs on this show to discuss what they do for a living and how they transform lives of others while doing it, and also their journey along the way. Debbie Longo, who's a executive coach and also a podcast host of her own, a show host of her own of the Behavioral Profit Show, and talks about burnout, resilience, and organizational culture. Thank you for joining me, Debbie.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Very much looking forward to this. I got a chance to check out your Instagram page, and you really are focused on how the mind impacts the body and really how people, even the subtle changes they make can make a lifelong difference.
Yeah. So I just started posting on social media, believe it or not. I had the full podcast on there, and then everybody's like, nobody's going to want to watch you sit on the couch for 45 minutes. So I changed it and I deleted everything and I made clips and stuff. I mean, I have a lot of content. I've been doing Behavioral Profit for over a year. And then the Internal Shift Show, I have like 50 episodes in like 4 months. It's like crazy. I know.
Making a podcast is a lot harder than people think that it is.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to in the beginning, it was hard. You just have to get used to it, I guess. But the thing is, the statistic is it's something like 5 billion people listen to podcasts.
Absolutely.
I know it's in like an insane statistic. So
you're right. And it's a crowded space too. So, you always have to make sure you compelling content too,
Right. Exactly. So I am, like you had mentioned, an executive behavioral coach, and I am also a transformational coach. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I had a spiritual teacher for 20 years, and then she died in 2021 of stage 4 cancer. And I went on. It was actually good because she was really sick and she just didn't want to live anymore. The treatment and stuff is very painful. So yes. I was actually, even though I was very upset, I was actually happy because she just got what she wanted, and I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, it's tough. End of life is tough,
Yeah. Always. So I had a spiritual teacher, and then I went on my own in like 2021, and there was COVID. So, I was home. It was very, very bad where I was, like tons of people were dying and stuff. So we really didn't want to catch COVID, so there was really nothing for us to do. Even when the vaccine came out, everybody was still afraid of getting COVID, so.
Yeah. Crazy times.
A lot of people, one thing that was happening was a lot of business owners were going bankrupt and their employees were quitting and the employees didn't want to go to work because of COVID. It was a whole thing. So here's the thing, okay? The company going bankrupt and the fact that the company is losing sales and profits has nothing to do with COVID, and it has nothing to do with employees quitting. Okay. Oh, wow. And it has nothing to do with any outside force at all. Okay. So let's think about it for a second. Big companies, big tech companies and worldwide companies, did they go out of business when COVID existed? Okay.
That's a very accurate depiction.
Right. And COVID was all over the world. I mean, I could just talk about the United States, but COVID was all over the world and they didn't have vaccines, like we had a vaccine pretty much right away. You know what I mean? Yeah. Other places went for years and years with no vaccine. So the point is that why did some companies stay afloat, right? And some went out of business and some didn't, and this is why I wanted to help business owners and executives because I know it has nothing to do with that. But we point the finger and we say, because of COVID, because of a pandemic, right? Because of, recession, okay? Because of, my employees quit a lot, right? Because they went back to school or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy to point the finger and say, because of this is the reason why my company is losing sales and profits. That's really the bottom line, right? But that's not the truth. And that's not the way that a business should be operating. Okay. And businesses that stay afloat during all of these times, because there's tons of these times, all throughout history and centuries and stuff. And the companies that stay afloat know exactly what to do. Right. And they know how to do it. That's the whole thing. So now we want to teach the small companies or the companies that don't know how to stay afloat during these times. I'm just giving this one example. It's tons of examples of this.
Correct.
I'm just using COVID, pandemic, all this stuff because it's like an extremely popular, scenario.
It's the most recent one too. It's the most biggest disruptor in our current time. I don't know. I totally understand.
Exactly. So that was the whole spiel with that. So that was why I started helping business owners and different things, right? But I was a life coach to begin with. Okay. So I figured, I can help people also, right? So this is the thing. So then I had the behavioral profit for the business owners and different things, right? And now that was like a year and a half, right? And that helped me get clients or, reach people or whatever it did. And then I started the internal shift show, like I said a few months ago, and that helps people to understand things about their life. Okay, so guests explain a little situation or scenario and then how they went through the process and then what the end result should be is and the end result should always be positive. So that's basically what it is. And what that does is that just gets listeners to be able to identify, right? Because I'm the type of coach that I don't push anybody. I'm not selling anything. Okay. I'm selling myself technically, right? But that's just, that's just the way that I got to do it. Right. But I'm not pushy. Okay. I'm not a salesperson where I say, you have to have this, you have to have this service, and I say the most expensive thing, right? And I'm not trying to fault anybody, any coaches or business owners or anything, I'm just explaining how I do it, how I operate and how I coach
it's a process with you.
Right. Exactly. And this is the thing. So now, that's that's the way that I work. So now whoever is attracted to that and is interested in learning more about that, right, then they'll contact me, and that is 100% organic.
Beautiful.
Okay, and that's right, and that's what I'm interested in, because if I use it as a sales tactic, what is it going to do? It's just going to get people to say, oh, I want this, I want that. And then they're going to get upset because I'm convincing them of something they probably don't even need or whatever. And then they're going to get upset. And then that's going to start a whole thing. Right. And that's not going to benefit anybody. Okay. It's going to put money in my pocket, but that's not, and if I do things organically and I do things to truly help people, I'll be making a lot more money than if I push products or services that they really don't need. That's just how it is.
I think the key right now, particularly in this era where people of, let's just be transparent here, the market has shifted to where you have to be self-reliant on, with all this digitization, with all the AI that's being deployed, a lot of people are being disrupted in ways that they previously were not. Even like kids who were, they used to tell people they had the golden ticket when you had a computer science major coming out of college. And now you can see the dropouts of going into those are significantly going down because of the deployment of AI. So I think the key now is to find a way to sell yourself and to provide value in ways that you may not have previously. Because if you just create the spreadsheet, if you just create the Excel file, or if you just code, and I'm not knocking those skills, that's not good enough right now.
Right. So I do a lot of things. I give a lot of stuff away for free. And I have guides, I have recordings, free sessions, things that I give out for free, during a session or a consultation or something like that, right? So those are things that are going to help, because not only they're going to help the individual who's interested in that, showing them what they need to do, in order to, because the ultimate goal is to increase sales and profits. That's the ultimate goal, right? If we're talking about, executive coaching, right? That's the ultimate thing. And that's not only going to be that, it's going to be like, you're going to be way, way, way over the top in your industry, where other people, your peers in your industry, are not going to understand what happened. They're not going to get it. And, you're going to be over the top and everybody's going to be freaking out. And that, that's the level, that it goes to. Right. So,
Beautiful.
but that's not what they see. They just see, they want to have a little bit more money, whatever. Right. Right. Because they don't know. Right. So, because you have to experience it. So the thing is that, we need those things as like a lure, and I'm not trying to, sell it where, I'm trying to sell something they don't need, right? But they need to have a little bit of convincing that this is what they need, because a lot of people don't know what coaching is. They don't understand it. They just they don't think it's going to work because they just don't know what it is. It's just a matter of not being educated enough, right? So there's ways that you can get people, and all coaches do this, right? Some do like lectures, like they have classes and stuff, which I've done. I've done that with my spiritual teacher, right? And they'll charge like a little bit, like $20, for a class, or $15, like a very small amount, or sometimes it's free, but you don't want to go too much free, because then you kind of lose the value of yourself.
I was just about to say, you have no value attached to it.
That's the problem, right? That's the problem. So sometimes if you have an and I think a lot of coaches charge a lot now, but sometimes if you have an introductory class or something like that, a workshop or something, right? You don't really have to charge that much money, but you should charge something. So that's the thing. Like if each class is like $150, charge like $50.
Right.
Some stuff that people can afford. You don't want to charge regular price. This is just to get people to really understand, what's happening. I've done this on Zoom. I've done it on Clubhouse. What Clubhouse is?
Yep, absolutely.
Different things like that, right? So like I said, this is just like an education type thing to get people to understand and say, I understand this, maybe I need this, maybe I need that, and that's it. And then if that's attracted to them, then that's fine. But this is the way that it has to be. And I try to tell people this, and they're like, oh, no, you have to sell this product and you have to make it like this, and, packages and everything like that. I mean, it's a whole thing, that because, marketing is a whole thing.
Absolutely.
And what I'm talking about, what I'm talking about is not marketing, because when I talk about being things organic, they laugh, and they're like, well, that's not, that's like, like that takes like a long time. I think that's not how you start, but that's why I haven't it's been a lot with them.
I think the key, especially, I think it takes a lot of level of humility for people to want to get a coach, because you may have blind spots as a business owner, or entrepreneur that you didn't know that you had. And sometimes your circle, it cannot see it because you're talking amongst the same group of people. Right. So it's very important to get an outside perspective, what processes aren't work, what blind spots a company has, where's areas for growth or areas for waste. And so it could also involve even changing your mindset of the offering of the product or service that you have to your customers, or potentially new customers.
Right. So here's the problem. You ever hear of everybody must hit a bottom? So a lot of times business owners will wait until they lost a lot of sales and profits, like multiple years in a row, or they file bankruptcy, or they went to a place where they never thought that their business was going to be there, or maybe all their employees quit within like a few months, and now they have no employees, and now they have to hire and train and stuff, and that all takes time. But meanwhile, the company's losing money because there's no employees. I mean, there's like, I could go on and on with situations like this, and we don't want the business owner or the executive to come to be at that spot. To get there in order to realize that they need help. But that happens a lot, and maybe that's why I do this. Another reason, maybe because if they see something that they have an issue with, or a problem or something that's happening in their business, if they see it beforehand, because they don't know what it's going to turn into. I pretty much know. but
Right.
they don't really know. I just know from experience. I don't know for a fact because I'm not a psychic, obviously.
Yeah.
And even if I was a psychic, I would know. But the point is that I just know, I just figure,
Trends, and
whatever.
you've done your research. Yeah, so it's like you don't wait
Right.
till you get to the beach to find out that you can't swim, right? You put in the
Right.
time necessary before the pool. And I think,
Right.
I've had a chance to talk to a number of different business owners, and all from different walks of life. And unfortunately, what can happen is that you work on what you're really good at, and you stay away from what you're not good at, and that's
Hmm.
usually the thing that's going to burn you the most, right?
Right.
And then you have to, and then more than likely you're wearing multiple hats, and then certain things don't get necessarily done in the proper manner, and
Right.
it takes time to figure that out. When do you feel it's necessary for somebody to bring on a
Right.
coach? Is it early, even when they're in their
Right.
growth stage, or is it when they start middling? What's the best time for a entrepreneur or a
Right.
person to have a coach?
So, like, right away, because, and also, how are they setting up their business? They need help with some way to set up their business, right? And I'm not going to help them with like the financial part of it and stuff, but I can help them figure out
Mhm.
how to set it up in a way that it's going to be positive,
Mhm.
in a way that it's going to be solid and
Mhm.
secure. And then I can say, well, this problem might happen, this might happen. And if you do this and this is
Mhm.
not going to happen, different things like that. And then they would have like a financial advisor, or something, or, somebody to help them set up a business. But that's the smartest thing to do. If they do it right away,
Mhm.
from literally day one, then, it's a win-win. They can't fail. It's impossible. But companies a lot of times start to go downhill right away, and then they lose money, and then they accept it. And they say, okay, well, I lost a little bit, it's no big deal,
Mhm.
and then they lose a little and a little every year, or sometimes they're just flat, and then they don't lose or don't gain, and then they're losing, and then everybody's behavior
Mhm.
and attitude literally goes out the window.
Right.
And then this could take a long time. I mean, this doesn't, sometimes it takes a few years, but sometimes it could take like 20 years.
I did a college paper on Blockbuster, right? And so they never pivoted from the brick and mortar model. And they actually had a chance to buy Netflix when they first were in their infancy stages, right? And to be at the forefront of understanding that it was better to even mail something to people's homes and not have a late fee, because a lot of the money Blockbuster made was off of these late fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people just
Mm-hmm.
accepted it as part of the transaction of renting a film.
Mm-hmm.
And then here comes this huge disruptor. It's like, send it back whenever you feel like it. We just won't send you another one until we get it back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is revolutionary. You mean to tell me and then it started to chip away. And even from that model that Blockbuster had, they still never pivoted from the brick and mortar, mostly because they had all those leases in place, but they never really saw that this was eventually going to turn into, digital. And then it was going to become more convenient for people. And the biggest Blockbuster and the biggest chain of video rental in the history of the United States was swallowed in 10 years because they never innovated or looked ahead of consumer
Mm-hmm.
trends.
Yeah. And I remember that.
Oh
I
my God.
remember that story because that was when Netflix was first starting. And like you said, they had all these stores, and we used to go to the
Of
stores and
course.
buy. I had Blockbuster right by me, right up the road from me where
Yeah,
I
who
lived.
didn't? Who didn't? I mean, it was a rite of passage. You knew, like, once like
Right.
4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday hit, it was like, okay, I'm getting 3 movies, some popcorn, some drinks and snacks. And,
Right.
whether it's family, friends, or whoever, you knew that was the weekend, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but again, it's a testament of what a company didn't do when it didn't evolve. They didn't see the
Mm-hmm.
blind spot, when
Yeah.
people, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And something small like that turned into something massive.
Happens all the time. And this is, and that's another thing too. People don't want to evolve. And like with AI, everybody's saying negative stuff about AI.
Right,
Why? There's
right,
nothing negative about
right,
AI. I
right.
mean, you really think that robots are going to walk around and run the world and
Yeah.
nobody's going to have a job? I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Right,
Okay.
right,
I
right.
went to a fast food place, and I never go to fast food, but I was craving it. Guess who was at the drive-through window?
AI agent.
AI.
Oh
And
yeah.
guess what happened? I ordered, and then
Yeah.
AI messed up.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes on and he goes, "Oh, there's a problem with AI." I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, don't worry."
Yeah.
So you're going to need, so this is the thing, even though you can get to a world,
Mhm.
right, where AI is perfect and different things, there's no possible way that it's going to replace people's jobs. It's not happening. And also, the economy would tank. If nobody has a job, you know what I mean? If people, because you're not paying AI, you know what I mean? You're not paying the robots. You're paying to buy the robot, or AI or the computer or whatever it is, right? You're paying for the software, whatever. Okay. But it's nice because, and even with the self checkouts,
Those are, yeah, those are.
you went from 10 registers open to two,
Isn't
you
that
know,
funny? That's the worst, right? Is like on a
and
set, like I've put stuff back on the shelf just because of how long that process can take, right? Because like, you're ready, you think you got an in and out process that's going on, and then next thing you know, you swipe, it's not right, then it says you didn't have it, you wait it, then you
right,
next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I really didn't need these two items. I'm just going to go to the dollar store because the transaction time that took is so annoying sometimes. Then you got to wait for
right.
the clerk to come and swipe their badge and input the gosh,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, right? The self
Yeah.
checkout, right? So, I mean, these are all things. I mean, we could talk about this type of stuff and, all these issues and everything that business owners face even today.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about this for hours and hours. I have tons of examples and stories and, all kinds of things, but I've done some podcast about AI,
Right.
and that's exactly what they said. And these people were AI experts, and they're like, that's never going to replace people's jobs. It's ridiculous. And then I hear it on TV, that's what they say. And they're worried, because people are not going to have jobs. And, it's just so, to me, it just doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. Think about like robots, like walking in the street and like running the world. I mean, I can't, you know what I mean? I can't
Yeah.
even think, that's even possible because there's always going to be human beings,
It will be
you know?
interesting to see what the future holds because it's I think the key is to make the tools adapt to make you more efficient to the processes that you're
Yeah.
making. And I think
Right.
that, I mean, spell
Right.
check in the night on your first Windows computer was an AI agent, right? So,
Hmm.
do they have some legitimate there's also it's complicated too because a lot of things are being done and people are being, obviously the numbers are the numbers that are people being laid off. And I don't want to be insensitive. A lot of
Hmm.
these companies also did potentially overstaffed due to COVID. But the
Hmm.
current environment right now obviously dictates that
Hmm.
people's skill sets are going to have to be more adaptable to other means that
Hmm.
they aren't. And I'm not a computer science major. I'm not in that field.
Hmm.
I'm just a guy with a headphone and a podcast show who gets to talk to people. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
sympathize with people who are in those positions. So.
Yeah. And that's true. But, people are going to have to start adjusting
That they
if
will.
if they want to keep their jobs, because that's just the way that it's going to be. And, AI has been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it really wasn't popular.
Mm-hmm.
It really didn't come out,
Right.
in the business world and all these different things.
Right.
And somebody brought it out, or a few people, and then everybody went crazy with it because it was like, it just was, it just opened the door for everything. My marketing guys are like, what took me 2 months now takes me 10 minutes
Oh,
to do.
there's no question that like the speed to actually to do things and to make even something a finished product or a presentation, right, or a case study, a customer, like those things where you can really find out where your consumer base is, especially if you're a mom and pop shop and you can deploy some agents to really do some things to really be competitive or get that next edge to get your product out. Those are definitely some things that ultimately people are, going to have to get used to or get comfortable with to be able to have this adaptability of this new
Yeah.
future.
Right.
Where can people find Debbie Longo? And what's the name? Don't think we mentioned the name of your company.
So the name of my company is Life in Bloom NY for New
Mm-hmm.
York .net. So it's LIFEINBLOOMNY.
Right.
Okay. And that's the website. Okay. And then I have another website. It's called DebbieLongo.com. So it's DebbieLongo.com. And then that has podcasts, and a little bit about me, different things like that. Right.
Yeah.
And then I have LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Those three things that I'm using. So you could put my name in there. So, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Mostly everything is on the Life in Bloom, but the DebbieLongo.com website just connects to my calendar.
Okay.
I have my email at the bottom, but if you want to talk to me, just make an appointment on my calendar, and then we could talk like on video conferencing, Zoom or Google or whatever you have. It doesn't matter what you have. I can do anything. As long as you have an internet connection, we're fine.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on. And I think in this new era of connectivity, the fact that I have a podcast, I'm able to connect to somebody from New York. I've connected to people in Australia, in the UK, all these wonderful places that my mind can deploy me to is all because of the embracement of technology. So I'm, it is what it is, and we just have to use it responsibly. And being able to have a platform like this and talk to people of all walks of life who are creatives, entrepreneurs, business owners, I take very, very pride in being able to, have guests such as yourself. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And I hope your office gets renovated in a very nice manner too. So
yes, it will. It's going to be good.
Debbie Longo on the Random to Nothing. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.